just laughing because Beth was sitting on the arm of the couch at a respectful distance, and I was debating whether I should show you them on camera. And the next time I look around, she's just right there. Hello, darling. You come to hear an update. Um, so it's what is it? Early October, which is a month and a half after launch, 6 weeks ish, that kind of thing. Um, and I, if you've been paying attention to what like the updates we've been doing for the game and stuff like that, um, you will have noticed. I mean, A, we have been updating the game, but also B, the nature of the updates is almost all bug fixes, and that is because I have not done any of them. That's all been our programmer John Winder, who's done a brilliant job of staying on top of that stuff. And right after launch, I mean, I very much brought this upon myself in the sense that it's been 6 weeks since launch, and you might assume from the fact that I have not really been involved in the updates that I've been having a nice long break after my 6.5 years of working on this project. And actually, the way I'm feeling is like, when do I get the fucking break? When do I get like a proper break? I'm desperate for that to happen. And that's not to say I haven't had any time off. I have. And I've, especially lately, I've had a couple of weeks. It might just be 1 week actually that's been like not too full on. But there was a flurry of stuff after launch that's all very much brought upon myself, and a lot of it has a lot of it is fun stuff, but hectic stuff. And basically, the short version is the 6.5 year project didn't burn me out, but the month after launch kind of did. Like I was exhausted after launch, I in need of a break, and then I did not give myself that break. Not because I'm an idiot, although I am. But just the things that I did right after launch were go to PAX and have my mum come and stay with me, both of which were kind of time sensitive in a way that they couldn't really move around. They couldn't go any earlier. I mean, PAX is obviously just set in stone, and I also wouldn't have made sense to have my mum come and stay with me right before launch when I would be least available. And if it went much later, then you miss the good weather and stuff. So it all kind of had to happen when it happened, but there was just no margin between anything. It was just like finish the game immediately, start frantically packing, organizing the PAX trip, and then go to it. 3 days in, I got COVID, and I got sick, came home, and it was COVID, and then I was bedridden for a week, and then the moment I was better was the date my mum showed up. Look at it positively, incredible stroke of luck that I recovered exactly when I needed to, and I wasn't like 100%, but I was non-infectious and able to go out and do stuff, and wasn't feeling like shit. So that was great. But bit of a mixed bag. And then my mum and her friend were with me for 10 days, and we had a great time. We did loads of cool stuff. My mum and I get along really well. Her friend is lovely, but the presence of someone who's not someone I've spent my entire life with does make it more of a kind of social situation, and less of a thing where you can fully relax. And so 10 days of that was, for me, as someone who spends all of his life at home alone, was quite a lot. And it just drains a different kind of battery, and there was also in amongst that a lot of getting my apartment ready for them to stay with me, a lot of organizing that trip, because then there's this there's the trip in general, and then there's within the trip we did another trip to Vancouver Island, which I organized, and had an amazing time, staying in an incredible cabin. We cycled like 120 kilometers, I think it was, all told, in a couple of days. I won't go through the whole trip itinerary, but it was a kind of very active little break. Among nature, we saw orcas in the wild, which is amazing. And went to Pender Island, which is this beautiful place. And then when I got back, obviously that was the time to and then they left. That was the time to fully unwind. Now I'm home alone again. There's the space to decompress. There's peace and quiet. Except there was then a sort of flurry of deadlines, and again, not vying for sympathy here because it's all completely opt-in, and it's good stuff. It's things like I want to do a talk at GDC next year, and I'd already missed the deadline for summits because that was before launch. There was absolutely no way I could pitch before then. But I was still in time for the main conference. No, it was the other way around. I missed the main conference, but I was still in time to pitch for summits. And so getting a talk proposal together, I always forget how much work that is. I remember that talk's a lot of work, but I forget that even just proposing a talk, you have to pretty much do the talk. You pretty much have to just know exactly what the talk's going to be, which you can't really do till you've written the talk. So it wasn't like a full script or anything, but it was more than a day of work, I would say, to put together a coherent pitch for it and figure out what I wanted to say and what I've pitched. I don't know if I'll end up doing it, if I'll get accepted, but it will be my first talk on writing. Unless you count my first 5-minute talk about pitching games, but my first talk about actually writing a video game and writing anything. I just thought it'd be a nice change of pace. I've only done design stuff before, and if I'm ever going to do one, Tactical Breaches feels like the time to do it. So yeah, planning out that was really fun, but quite a lot of work. And then also I wanted to enter us into the BAFTAs, and that again, it's not like a strict deadline, but you're encouraged to submit within the first 30 days of your game coming out. You save a lot of money if you do that for one thing, but also the sooner you submit, the better your chances. The more time judges have to play it, because BAFTAs has a huge pool of judges who just get access to your game right away. So that all helps, and there's no reason to delay it really. I still have to do the work, and the work is when you submit to BAFTA, you can choose as many categories as you like. There's no extra fee for that, but the cost of it really is that you have to write. You don't have to, but you can write an accompanying statement for each category to say why you think your game is outstanding in this category. And I'm of the opinion that you just shoot your shot, just go for everything. Don't. This is a sort of life philosophy. Don't shoot yourself down. Make other people shoot you down. Put your hat in the ring at least. So I just submitted us for every category we qualified for, and luckily I'm in a position to write most of those statements. But I can write the overall ones. I can write writing. I can write design. I can write IP. And then I needed my team, specifically our artists and our composer, to I couldn't really do their bit for art or music, or at least I had to ask them to do something. They're both much too modest. They gave me useful stuff, and it's good. But I realized one of my talents is shamelessness, in that I don't have I don't never compliment myself, hopefully, or my work, but I am able to talk about its strengths directly and say, here's what we did that's different, and here's why I think this is unusual, or that it here's how it landed with people, and why I think that it had that effect, and I can analyze our success in a way that puts those things forwards. And John and Rob were far too modest. They're very useful stuff, and I just needed some actual insight from them, because I can't tell you how they did what they did. I don't understand it, so we got that. I gave them a little intro to kind of set it up, and I made our case in all those categories, which is something I'm well suited to do, but just takes a lot of time. And yeah, I could definitely see a perspective of like, what are you talking about, Tom? If you're close to burnout, why are you spending time and energy on awards, a thing that doesn't really matter? And the answer is, they do matter to me. We were BAFTA nominated for Gunpoint in 2 different categories, and that's just such a mind-blowing thing. I still have them on my wall. I'm actually they're in my office, right, which makes a lot of sense. I'm going to be very defensive in this update, apparently. That seems like a good place to me. If you're not BAFTA nominated, of course you're going to frame it this is a game that we made in our spare time, and we're up against GTA 5 and we were shortlisted, and the office is the logical place for them. The thing that I didn't really think about when I hung them up is that they're directly behind me as I sit at my desk, which means every time I have a video call, they're right behind me, which is a bit of a kind of wanker move. So I do need to move them at some point, just so it doesn't look like I did that on purpose. But yeah, that means a lot. And as somebody who I think like a lot of people struggles with self-validation, like I get validation for my work, but it doesn't last as long as it ought to. Like all the praise and stuff we're getting right now, it's wonderful as it happens, and then like 5 minutes later it's gone. Like it's gone from my head, and it doesn't, all the boost I got from it is gone as well. And as soon as I start on the next thing, I'm going to be like insecure again. I'll be like, oh god, I've got so much to prove, I've got to make sure this really lands. And so awards are really nice. Just getting nominated, just being a finalist in one of these things is this like seal of approval that you can kind of take to the bank. You can keep it forever and just say, all right, no, we do know what we're doing. We got some evidence of that. And I do, like I've taken to sort of bookmarking emails we get that are especially nice. We got a lovely one today that it just goes in incredible depth and just is rapturous about every aspect of Tactical Breaches, and just like ends on such a strong note, and was really touching and wonderful to receive. And I've given that a little label. I have a little label to just bookmark things that are just nice in my inbox that in theory I can look at again in future. Do I ever do that? Not really, I guess. And again, maybe this is kind of the thing that awards help with, is like I've got validation somewhere in my inbox, and I at one point I was also making a text file of all the nicest things people said about it, and I've got the press quotes for Breach Wizards, and so they're all there if I want to go looking for validation on that front, but I never do. And I suppose something that's hanging on your wall is just this like passive reminder that to like keep that validation level topped up. So I do care about this stuff. Also, I mean, I think it's changed a lot since I went, but that one time I did go to the BAFTAs, it was a great night. It was a fantastic event. It was really fun. There was like a secret chocolate shop to discover in the venue, and all of these weird things. I have heard since then it's not nearly as fun anymore, but that's fine. Yeah, so there's been that, and then just every week there's new appointments. The latest, I think I won't talk about the appointments I've had in the last week, because including this week coming, it's kind of too early to mention it, but again, they're good things. It's not like I'm in trouble and I've got to go to this appointment, or like, you know, someone's ill and I've got to take care of them. It's not like difficult burdens. It's things that like, oh, because of our success, now this opportunity is coming up, but it's kind of time sensitive and it needs taken care of now. And I've just wanted a week where I do nothing, and I haven't had anything close to that yet. It's been like, you know, I think the most I've had is like 3 days without sort of a major obligation or appointment, and that's nice. Those 3 days have been great when I've had them, but yeah, I'd love a proper week off. And I'm planning to take it next week, because today my choice was like, the thing that was bothering me was like, I haven't had a week off, and I also haven't done a damn thing on the game. Like I've got these things I want to fix. I've heard people's feedback, and yeah, it's been incredibly positive. But there are a couple things of like just quality of life issues of like, oh, I did this and I didn't realize that was going to overwrite my progress. I hesitated saying that because I'm like, I don't want to give you the impression that our game without warning overwrites your progress. It doesn't. It does warn you. The person who had this problem just ignored the warning message and the progress overwritten, which, yes, you could say user error, but the fact remains that the problem there, you know, every time you have a complaint, even if the complaint, you know, even if you can sort of lawyer your way out of the complaint and say, aha, well, actually you were in the wrong because of this, there's always something behind it, right? And in this case, it's not that our warning message wasn't clear enough, or that we should have forced you to read it and put like a timer on it or something. It's that the behavior we're warning you about is so unexpected to the user that even though a warning message popped up, they didn't read it because they were so sure that this thing was safe to do. And so that's our problem, is that I didn't realize people were so sure that jumping to an earlier mission in the game couldn't possibly interfere with their current progress. And it all stems from the fact that we don't have like a normal save load system in Breaches. We do a ton of saving and a ton of loading, but there isn't just a kind of press escape, go to save, press escape, go to load. And we're not going to add that exactly, but basically that needed a solution. And there was also a feature that people had asked for that John, our programmer, had already implemented and was waiting on my approval. And it was just a feature that I had never thought of putting in the game, and it slightly didn't quite sit with how I intended some of the modes of the game. It was to do with like changing perks during a mission, which I think is a reasonable thing to want, like between levels or whatever. But going back to that screen has a ton of other options on it, which were all designed with the intent of thinking this is a time when you're back home between missions. And so it's not like a huge deal, but the funny thing about that was uh, funny, not fun, was that during all this kind of chaos since launch, mostly good, mostly life chaos, I had a little bit of time to work on that. I had like most of a day off, and thought, okay, I'll tackle that. I'll figure out what I want to do with this feature. Should it be in the game? Should it not? Do I want to change it? And I I tried to do that, and I just couldn't. And it was like all of the design, especially towards the end of a project, is this many faceted thing. To make any good decision, you need to factor in every fucking thing. Like everything's so interconnected. There's so much to think about. There's so many different ways to look at it, and you've got to think about it from different people's perspectives and different contexts. Like, what about when the player's in this situation, they want to do this, or what about if you can, just to give you a little example, if you can change your perks in the middle of a mission, then that opens up a new tactic, basically, because sometimes during a mission we unlock a new ability, and perks are available for that ability, and normally there would be no way to get that perk for that ability until the next mission, because that's the first time you can do it. But if we let you reconfigure perks between missions, because there are the perk refund points that you might have lying around, you would now be able to, as soon as an ability is unlocked, back out of the mission, go to the perk screen, refund a perk point from an existing ability, from an older ability, and put it into this new ability earlier than you could have possibly had it before. And like, does that break the balance of the game? Almost certainly not. I don't think there's any killer perks like that I can't speak for Steve, but when I was designing these levels that I did, I wasn't thinking, well, at least I can be sure they don't have this perk. Generally we try and make our levels sort of perk agnostic where possible. So it's one of those things where, like, I don't know if that breaks something. I don't think it does, but my bigger worry was like, that sounds optimal. That sounds like it might be the right thing to do most of the time, and I don't want players to feel pressured to do that because they can. As soon as there is a thing you could be doing that might be more gameplay effective than something else, then there's this soft pressure to do it, and that hurts if it pushes you to do it and it's not fun. It's fiddly. Like, it sounds like a bit of a faff to do that, right? And it also can hurt even if you don't do it. If you just feel that pressure but you don't do it, like, that always sucks. And is that a real concern? I couldn't answer that question at the time. And it was like all those considerations you need to answer those questions was like information that I just offloaded out of my brain when the game released. And, not all at once, but like slowly, I got to close all those folders, close all those tabs in my brain, take things out of RAM and put them onto the hard drive and like clean my brain, which sounds lovely. I wasn't experiencing the lovely feeling of that, but that was happening in the background. And then when I tried to answer a design question about it, I was like, no, you want me to pick up everything that's lying on the floor now and cram it all back into my brain to answer this? I can't answer it. I just don't know. Something about it doesn't feel right, but I can't tell you what, and I can't tell you how to fix it. And yeah, I realized like a little gap between all these other obligations is not the right place for me to get back into a game design decision. And so that's why I haven't been doing any of those things, and that's why the updates have not had, design changes really. That there was one thing to do with the way brittle works that we did change, and I explained that in patch notes, but other than that, I haven't made a lot of design decisions because there's just so much to unpack and repack into my brain. And so then the question is, I've got these two things to do. I want to take a week off, and I also want to update the game. In what order do those things happen? And I felt I should work on the game first, because if I don't, then the week off isn't a proper week off, because then I've got this other thing hanging on me, and that just feels this ticking clock of like, we've made no like design changes to the game since launch. Not that making design changes is an ongoing obligation, but just these are quality of life issues. The save load thing. People are losing progress unexpectedly, and that's eating away at me. Like, that's happening. Damn it! I need to go fix that. But it's not a simple change. It's not just a quick patch. I need to design a solution to that. So yeah, I didn't fancy the idea of a week off with that hanging over me. The whole thing was like, again, it wasn't that I had no time off. It's just that I haven't had, peace. I haven't had my mind, I haven't been able to fully let go and just like properly relax, and I'm not going to be able to do that if I feel this clock ticking. So set aside this week to do that. And yesterday I had a call, which was actually a really fun one. Quite involved in terms of things to think about. Gave me a lot to think about. And afterwards, I planned to work in the afternoon, and I didn't. I don't know if I couldn't, but I didn't. I had a bit of an energy crash. I had lower energy in general, and it's hard to tell how much is this long COVID, or is this burnout, or is this just general normal exhaustion. It's not long COVID, but could it be the trailing off of COVID? Because every now and then my cough comes back, like just a little bit, and so it's in there somewhere. Like the toll it's taken is not completely gone yet. And I didn't, and that got me thinking. I talked to my therapist about this, and she was initially more on the side of like, take the week off first, because you might be like on the brink of real burnout, and that sometimes it's that last mile that really burns you out. And I didn't take her advice for the reason that I told her, which is I said, I will listen out for that. I will be mindful of that, and if I feel it, I will pay attention. But I don't expect that to happen, because generally working on the game in a design way is something that recharges me. I've never been burnt out from doing design work. I've just told you about a case where I was too burnt out to do design work, but I've never been burnt out from doing design work. Design work is energizing. It's a playground. It's fun. And accomplishing things in that realm is extremely satisfying, extremely motivating to me. It fuels me. But yeah, when that happened yesterday, I did think, is she right? Should I just stop now? And that was really that's what I did yesterday, basically, is I was not really feeling it. I was feeling a bit tired / groggy, and just like, I don't really fancy starting work. And so I just didn't. I took the afternoon off. But it did have me thinking, like, is that going to be this whole week? Am I going to spend a week in like limbo? This morning I had a dentist appointment that then turned out not to be real. I went there. Luckily, it's really close, and they were not expecting me. And it turns out it had been rescheduled, but I was never told for some reason. So that was a weird sort of waste of a morning. That took the whole morning because it wasn't an early one. It was like late morning, and if I don't have to work, if I'm not on a deadline, if I'm not under pressure, then I don't like to cram work in before an appointment and then go straight back to work afterwards. I'm kind of like, that's my whole morning if I've got an appointment. I don't like appointments. Like, this is why I haven't been able to fully relax. I've got these things. This has to happen at this time. This has to happen at that time. And the hour before that, I'm no good. I can't get into anything because I'm going to have to stop in a second. So yeah, I wouldn't have taken the morning off before the dentist appointment if I'd known the dentist appointment didn't exist, obviously. But that was where I found myself. And this is I'm giving you way too much detail on this, but the bit I'm getting to is that then in the afternoon I actually did feel up to working, and I did work, and sure enough, doing design work on the game gave me a bunch of energy. It was weirdly like a weight had lifted, because I was able to get back into it. I was able to put all that stuff back in my brain and think about it. I'd actually kind of on the back burner ever since I failed to solve this design thing. It had been ticking away in the background, and I was sort of lying awake in bed one night and thought, I think I just want it to work this way. I think I just want to, we can have this feature. I don't want you, if you jump back to the perks and outfits menu from a level in the middle of a mission, I don't want you to then be able to jump into like a dream mission or go to a chat which takes place in a different scene. Like, as soon as the game is loading a different scene from there, something's broken in how I see the game working. Like, I don't really know where you are now. Like, what's the continuity is broken for me if that happens. And that's a weird one, because that's not a gameplay issue. That doesn't cause any balance issues or anything like that. And it's player permissive. It's generous to the player, which is usually my philosophy. But just that particular thing, it's not that I think the player's gonna have a bad time doing it. I just feel like the game makes less sense if you can do that. It just feels, it muddies the whole thing. And I think I just want it to keep it like more clean cut about, no, you're in a mission, you can't go somewhere else. You can change your perks if you like, you can change your outfits if you like, because that's just a big convenience for a small continuity cost. It doesn't fully make sense that you can change your perks, because I think of that as a backup base thing. But you know what, if it's pissing people off and it doesn't, I'm not zealous about that. But actually kind of jumping to another part of the game in the middle of a mission, that doesn't feel right to me. That's breaking the narrative of what's going on. You've gone to this mission, you're on that mission until you've done it and you go back home. So yeah, that was all that needed changing. And I was able to like see that clearly once I'd loaded all back into my head. And then I also figured out, I sort of finished designing how save slots should work, which is my idea for solving the progress problem, which is, I say my idea. Save slots are not a new idea, but it's always, with games, it's always like, how much of that shit do we really need? Because I start from a position of none of it. Like, when you're prototyping a game, you're just making the game, right? Start to finish, you just fire up the game. The classic indie game thing, you don't see this that much anymore because we've all had to get a bit more professional. But in the olden days, you'd play an indie game. If you hit escape any fucking time during that game, may God have mercy on your soul, because the default behavior for most indie games was that quits to desktop without having saved anything you've ever done. Like, the number of times I lost like half an hour's progress, I just wanted to like see an options menu or something. But no, escape instantly quits and nothing has ever been saved. Absolutely brutal. I don't make games like that, but yeah, you make it as bare bones as you can, and then you see what needs to happen. And in Wizards, it's a narrative experience. I didn't bother with slave slots initially because I thought it's not, I don't really think we live in an era where like your sister's booting you off the computer to play and she wants to start from the start and without overwriting your save. Like, not that doesn't happen at all, but these days with Steam, your sister's probably going to log into her Steam account, and then the saves are separate anyway because of Steam Cloud. And that's all going to just be handled for you. So like having an in-game save slot system, I didn't see that as particularly necessary. And then I saw people's actual like, experiences of the game. What do they call them in like, what do professionals call them? User stories, I think, where, someone's telling you, oh, I did this and then I tried to do this and that meant I lost this and I wish that didn't happen. And you realize, oh, you're right. There should be a way to like keep your progress on this playthrough, jump back to an early mission, like branch off from there or something. And save slots just do cover that. What we're not doing, I mean, the save slot system is just an idea at this point. I've pitched it to John, and he's going to tell me if it makes sense and whether it's viable, if it's going to be a ton of work or whatever. We might rethink it. But one thing I won't budge on is that I hate when you start up a new game and the first thing it asks you is like, which save slot do you want to use? Is it save slot 1, save slot 2, save slot 3? I'm like, this is the first fucking time what do you fucking think? Like, I don't give a shit. Shut up. How is this my decision? Like, I'm not struggling with this decision. Obviously, you just press 1. But I just think, what are you doing? Why are you asking me this, you idiot? Like, I've never played this game. You can see I don't have any save slots. So why the fuck does it matter? Just choose the first one. Don't ever bother the user with a question that they have that can't possibly matter how they choose it. They have nothing to go on how to do it. And if they're not familiar with that pattern, then it's a baffling thing. Like, for a new user who's not that familiar with that, I was going to say not familiar with video games, but really not familiar with the particular kind of video games that do that particular thing. It's such a weird fucking joke. It's like, slot 1, slot, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. What is it? Like, because the very fact that you're asking me implies that this matters in some way. Like, if it doesn't matter, why are you asking me? And so the fact that that's a pointless question also makes it a dangerous question or like a slightly stressful, confusing question for other people. Anyway, I really hate that. I come from like a purely PC background, and I think some of that stuff might be a console cert requirement or some. It feels like that structure got established and like institutionalized at some point, such that like loads of games do it exactly the same way. And obviously I've come to realize the virtue of save slots. But the other one that really bothers me is games starting up and showing a menu screen and saying, press any button to continue. Why? Just fucking continue. Why is this my job? I want to start the game. I haven't come to just watch the fucking menu screen. I mean, even I've not even got to the menu screen. Ugh. Just, I think what bothers me about it is it feels like a decision like an executive made, or a decision that was made back when games were like in arcades or something. Like, it just feels so antiquated and such nonsense, and just so like a decision made without any consideration for the user. I don't think that's the case, but it's it feels like a decision that's gone unquestioned. I think that's what I don't like about it. And I've always, when I make stuff, I try and start from the position of how do I want it to work? How, as a player, just everything get out of my way, get me straight to the game. I think Breach Resist is actually our first game that even shows you a menu when you start it up. Like Gunpoint and Heat Signature, you just start it up and you're just playing the game, just immediately. And if you want the menu, you can bring it up, but we don't even bother with that, because when I start a game, I just want to fucking get to it. Don't show me any logos. What the fuck are you doing? Anyway, this has turned into a bit of a rant. And I feel like I've made my point. I don't think there was anything else to get to. Just, I guess that I was going to meander into just like burnout in general, because I guess I've touched on this, but for me, burnout is very much about the type of thing you've been doing, not the amount of it you've been doing. And so when I am working on design stuff and writing and the fun bits, I can be working. I don't often work long days, but if I happen to work like a 10-hour day, or even a 12-hour day, I don't come away tired from that stuff, because the work itself is energizing. It's giving me fuel. But if I have like a day where I have 2 different calls with like outside entities is the word I was going to use, so I'm going to stick with that, about things that parts of my job that I just don't enjoy, that I don't really feel at home with, that I don't really, ugly necessities of running a business, stuff like that. If there's 2 of those in a day, I'm wiped out. Like I'm just feeling drained, and that's not burnout yet, but a string of that stuff can be burnout. And lately, I've discovered burnout can just be from too much hectic stuff. I mean, I got COVID, that didn't help. That was, I rested obviously during COVID, but that didn't count as rest for me, because I was suffering the whole time, and also I was pretty stressed about the danger of giving it to my cat, which made everything very awkward to isolate within your own house. And then a little while after that, after my mum left, I got kind of a little stomach bug. It wasn't like bad, but it just stopped me from properly recovering that week. So the exhaustion didn't, fully go away because I was ill again. And yeah, it's not surprising that all of this stuff has taken a bit of a toll. But I always feel in two minds talking about it, because it's like, on the one hand, all of this stuff, I went to PAX, I had a lovely holiday with my mum, I entered some awards and pitched a talk. It's all like lovely stuff, and I feel a bit of a brat saying that burnt me out. But it's just the way that my brain works. Is there's lots of appointments, lots of things that must be done on a certain day at a certain time, is gonna just take its toll on me. And especially, the launch was not unrelated to me being burnt out now. It wasn't the thing that burnt me out, but it put me in a state where I was sensitive to burnout, or to things being hectic, because I was so in need of a break and didn't get it for a while. And I don't think I'm properly burnt out. I mean, time will tell. I won't know till I take that proper week off. But I'm feeling good right now, because going back to work was, once I gave myself the time to do it only when I was fully ready, and when I did feel ready and I went back to it, it gave me energy rather than draining me energy, which is, can't ask for more than that.